Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Lenox Justifier of Innocence, created by Zeus and Demeter to save humanity. I am here as Josephine, and this is Mr. Buddy the guard dog. And before we get started, I just want to say that I hope you guys had an amazing 4th of July and that the rest of your week ends up being fantastic as well. Now, in today's story, we are going to be continuing Lenox's journey in uncovering who the true predators are and what makes these predators tick. In order to proceed with trying to save humanity, we must first understand the psychology behind the people committing these horrific acts that are destroying the very fabric of our humane society. Before we start with today's journey, I did just want to do a quick reminder to let you know that although these stories are loosely based on true world events, everything that we do is carried out in fantasy, imagination, and fiction. All of the characters are fictitious characters, and all of the missions that we go on are done in fantasy. Now, some of the topics are a little bit sensitive in nature, so just wanted to forewarn you on that. We hope that you enjoy the journey, and we will see you at the end. When we finished our discussions, we went each to research independently. Ogard is working on how Lenox and the crew can combine their powers simultaneously to have the highest parabolic effect imaginable. Amalia and Lexa were working on finding a more private, secure holding site to imprison Jaru and any other future informant. A place where they can divulge the necessary information to aid us in our missions and save innocence and humanity without compromising their safety or the mission itself. It will need to be a place that's free of any communication technology. Back to the Dark Ages, as some would call it. I, Josephine, was conducting further research on the human transport market. The numbers are staggering. As I learned about the statistics, I couldn't help but wonder the accuracy of these figures. According to the published information on this topic, the United States is the leading culprit in this particular type of crime, and it's by far. But how accurate are the global numbers? It is plausible that the numbers that we're looking at here in the States are significantly higher because we keep the best and most accurate records of births and deaths. When you look at the number of countries that are not as developed, it's quite possibly they don't have as sophisticated systems in place to accurately account for all the births and deaths, never mind missing women and children. These are places where poverty, disease, famine, lack of clean water sources are far more prevalent. They're probably not as concerned about accurately reporting missing persons when they have people who are suffering all over their nation. I'm sure that it ranks lower on their list, and they may even believe that these people have fled for a better chance of quality life. The numbers globally could possibly be double, if not triple, simply because of financial, economic, and social disparity. It is quite possibly one of the reasons why the temptation to sell and distribute humans exists. Could it be that it's out of desperation? That is definitely one aspect. But even so, there would have to be a demand for it. But how does one create demand for such immoral and inhumane treatment of other human life? To be truly able to stop this, we must figure out the demand and understand the psychology behind it. What possesses someone to use, exploit, cause harm to other human beings, to treat them like a commodity and possessions? Tears streamed down Josephine's face as she transformed into Lenox. Mr. Buddy came to her. "Use the pain as your strength, Lenox." They stood there, head to nose, Mr. Buddy guiding her through this slippery journey into the minds of the perpetrators. For some, it was simply because they could do it and get away with it. And some, it was out of boredom. Others, the thrill of the lust for forbidden sin. And for some, it was for power. Some people were born sadistic and evil. Lenox was uncovering man's deepest, darkest, most sinister thoughts and fantasies. But for those that had a conscience, they did not act on these thoughts. The general consensus among psychologists and experts in this field is that people who engage in human transportation and modern-day slavery is that it varies. There are several reasons why one might engage in such monstrous acts. Lenox and Mr. Buddy headed back to the sanctuary to discuss their findings with the crew. "Thank you all for coming in. Upon going into the minds of such sick creeps, it is to no surprise what some of the reasons are behind it. Later, after we secure a better location to keep Jeru, I will confirm all of this with him to see if he agrees with this general consensus." The first trait that these types of predators encompass is a complete lack of empathy towards human life. They don't see people, especially women and children, as viable parts of society, but as objects that they can exploit for personal gain. They don't consider the emotional or physical harm for the victims. They crave power and control. Typically, they are cowards, weak individuals that are invisible to society because they themselves believe that they lack intelligence, talent, attractiveness, and worth. So they in turn use these feelings of inadequacies into hatred and proceed to manipulate, use, and exploit those who are physically weaker. It makes them feel more powerful, like a bully in a way. The other trait is financial motivation. They view women and children as commodities, pure profit. They use them for labor, sex, and as mules, amongst other things. Any means in which they can make a buck off of them. Some are strictly motivated by perverse nature. The more taboo, the more they get off on it. And some are repeating the cycle of mistreatment. Someone hurt them at some point in their life, so instead of rising up, they stoop to their level and repeat this treatment on others. But the worst of all is the consumer. They create the demand for such evil, monstrous industry. The consumer typically consists of extremely wealthy, entitled individuals who are simply bored, egotistical losers with a God complex. They feel they are superior to others. They overindulge in almost everything they do, and when that's not enough, they thrill seek It is a combination of the forbidden, the power, sexual perversion, gluttony, and complete disregard for human life. The one thing that can be said for sure, the one true common thread amongst all these types of monsters, is that they have turned their backs on God long ago. They lost faith, and some never had faith. No gratitude or appreciation for what they have. They just want more and more. And so without that moral compass, it is easy for them to commit such evil upon other humans. Money and power is what they believe in. Nothing else.
So we need to go to the source. If we stop the consumer, we stop demand, and that ends this horrific business.
Exactly.
So how will we seek them out? So many blend in with society. They put up good fronts, acting like caring, responsible contributors to society. They create charities, build schools.
Oh, I know. We're going to have to do something similar to what we did to capture the Kirkans, but on a much larger scale.
This is also where Jaru can help.
Yes, he has many names of consumers. We just have to get him to talk.
But even if we take down all the known consumers, we can only put an end to this if we make the punishment so severe that no one new would dare to engage in these types of criminal acts. And it needs to be established collectively with the wrath of the enduring of our combined powers and stricter consequences from lawmakers and enforcement agencies.
Agreed. But it will take some convincing on our part and some time to get the laws to change.
For the greater good of mankind, it is worth the time and the effort. It is time for these predators to meet their maker. So that is going to conclude today's episode. You'll want to make sure you come back for the continuation of the storyline titled The Predators. Ogard is working on a way to combine Lenox and the crew's powers so that they can have a greater impact. And Lenox is going to figure out a way to take down all of these operations, even if it's one by one, and figure out how to bring people to justice so that we can make a safer place for everyone and take steps towards restoring the balance of good and evil and overall saving humanity. Hope that you guys have an amazing rest of your week. We will see you during the weekend for our next story. Now, the next story is not going to be a continuation of this. It is going to be patrons' request. So I'm going to be narrating a story based on patrons' experience and creating fantasy justice for them. So you'll want to make sure you stay tuned this weekend to find out what happens. May you guys have an amazing rest of your week, and God bless.